You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Hi everyone, this is the Ask Annie podcast, Horse Girl reviews on products you use. This episode is brought to you by Central Life Sciences and Starbar Products. Insect control starts with Starbar brands. With products scientifically tailored to insect behavior at pinpoint locations, Starbar Products have delivered reliable results that have been trusted for more than 40 years. I'm excited to welcome back Andrea Bolduc, the Regional Sales Manager at Starbar Products. Andrea has joined me on previous episodes to discuss Starbar's comprehensive lineup of pest control, the importance of implementing an IPM approach, and more. Andrea grew up around horses, went to school in Southeast Louisiana, and has been working for Central Life Sciences for more than a decade, where she helps a wide variety of agriculture and livestock owners find the best solutions to their pest management needs. Thank you for joining me today, Andrea.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me back. I always look forward to this.
Anytime. You're always welcome. So what flies are commonly found around horses and what impact do they make?
So you're most common with horses, you're going to, of course, house flies because they're everywhere, right? And stable flies are always a big problem with horse farms. And I think the best way to identify the two is if, like, say you have a horse with white socks. You're going to, when you groom, you're going to see little red blood specks on those white socks. And that's how you know that you're dealing with stable flies. Stable flies are a blood feeder, whereas house flies are not. So that's a quick, easy way to identify which flies you're dealing with. But house flies are everywhere, like we said, and stable flies are very, very common among horse operations.
Yeah, it's really interesting to know that blood, that's a good tell. Yeah. And
it's, you think that it doesn't have that big of an effect, but it really does. If you think about it, or I mean, I'm sure it's happened with you too. Like, I know that I've been in a barn in the summer and I have on my paddock boots and shorts, and I'm sitting there either sweeping or I'm just leaning up against the stall talking to somebody, and you get a bite on your leg and you're like, oh, that hurt. That's a stable fly. So I'm sure it's happened to you too. I think it's happened to everybody that spent any amount of time in shorts in a barn in the summertime. But of course, you're also going to have parasitic flies that attack horses in areas where they're not able to defend themselves. They have very painful bites. And like I said, they do draw blood meals. And this will really affect the comfort of your horses. So it's important to manage them. And it's not only the comfort of your horses, it's also the fact that these flies do spread disease. I mean, they are filthy animals, filthy little bugs. So, it can result in itchy skin, irritated skin. Summer sores is super common. Eye worms, I've seen some, but not a lot, luckily, because that's no. And then, of course, disease, like I said. So you're going to get like pigeon fever is one that I know is a fly vector species disease. There's a $10 word for you. Pigeon fever, midline dermatitis. Oh man, I had this beautiful mare, and it would eat her up every single summer. The whole midline, poor thing. So, and then equine granular dermatitis is another really common one as well. So controlling these flies will really, really make your horses more comfortable, make you more comfortable in the barn, and also limit this disease transmission, which, of course, is very important to us.
Yeah, nasty little buggers could not have been more applicable term.
Yeah, nasty little buggers.
So in the mitigation of flies, what is an integrated pest management approach, and how can it be useful for protecting horses from flies and other insects?
Yeah, so integrated pest management, or IPM as we just call it, it's a pest control strategy that uses a variety of methods. From natural predators and parasites. I think that lots of folks are familiar with Fly Predators, the company. So that's definitely one strategy. Cultural practices, biological controls, and of course pesticides too. So when we walk onto farms, and I walk onto a bunch, we look at a lot of things. So first and foremost, is there tall grass? Like, is there landscaping that needs to be kept up with? Because that is a huge component to this. Is there standing water? You have to, you dump out water buckets that are just holding water where mosquitoes are going to breed and become a problem. So things like that. So, upkeep of the property so that flies don't have nice little places to hide and rest and be comfortable and make their homes. And then, just general upkeep of the whole farm and cleaning up manure and, proper manure management practices and things like that. So that's really the IPM approach. Now, within the IPM approach is something that we've kind of used the acronym PIE, P-I-E. So you're going to have your planning phase, which first and foremost is identifying what pests you're dealing with so you know which products you need to research and use. So your planning phase is going to include identification of the problem pests, understanding their habits, and devising a management strategy accordingly. So for instance, like I said, we'll go back to stable flies. Stable flies is a great one. You're standing in the barn and they bite and it hurts. Or you're grooming your horse and you see the red little blood specks. So now you know you're dealing with stable flies, and we have a specific trap for stable flies. So, it's just taking those things into account so this is part of the planning of the IPM. So the next one is implementation. So once you've identified your pests and you've made your plan, then you're going to implement this plan. And that's going to include, finding which traps belong where, or which baits you should use and how to properly use them and where they need to go around your place. So you have a stable fly problem, you're going to get bite-free stable fly traps. You're going to put them in between paddocks. You're going to put one closer to your manure pile. Or if you have a shady side of the barn that's close to where the horses are, once these flies take a blood meal, they go for a place to rest and digest. And that's usually a shady side of a barn. So put your trap in between where the horses are and the barn, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to catch these flies. So it's pretty, it's pretty straightforward and easy. So you're going to plan and then implement the strategy. And then, you're going to give it a week or two, and then you're going to look at your traps and you're going to evaluate what's left. Like, is it working? Are you seeing fewer flies? Are your horses more comfortable? And then you just, make changes that you need. So that's really the IPM in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's really just following fly behavior and
right, exactly.
Figuring out, like you said, what species first, but then what they're doing around all these areas. So
yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. If you can identify the fly first or whatever pests you're dealing with, then you can take it from there. So
awesome. So there's some new innovations from Starbar Products that horse owners can use to protect their flies from biting and nuisance insects. What are those?
So we have 2 new ones. The first one I'll talk about, I'm super excited about. It's so easy to use and really, really, I was so impressed with this product when they gave us to trial it over the summer last summer. So the new product is called Aviator. And it's fly bait aerosol. So it comes in like a spray paint can, ready to go, already mixed up. All you have to do is shake it up and treat the areas wherever, sometimes you have baits, like scatter baits, right? So it's the same idea. It's fly bait, but it's in an aerosol and it's all ready to go. You don't have to mess with it. You don't scatter it across your barn floor. You can just treat the walls, rails. I like to spray it the base of where my stalls meet the floor, the mats in my aisleway. So flies feed low and rest high, and they're active in the 3 to 4 foot range in the middle, right? So baits are intended to go low for them to be most effective, rather than putting them in the rafters to keep whatever critters are in their barn, your cats or dogs, away from it. So this product is really great because it's less mass. You can reach places that maybe a bait won't be able to treat, and it's ready to go. All you have to do is shake it up and start spraying. So you could even spray around your manure pile. You could spray around, or underneath your wheelbarrows, anywhere where they can be drawn to it, feed on it, and they're dead within 3 seconds. It's very gratifying.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's done super well for us. Aviator came out in March, and I had an industry trade show shortly after it was launched. And at the trade show, it was my number 2 selling product. And that was like having been out for just a matter of weeks. So it's done really, really well for us. And we've been talking about a product like this for a couple of years. So it's exciting to have it finally here and out in the market.
That's so cool too that people responded to it so well. Like that's telling.
Yeah, it's a really, really good one. Our other new product came out last year. Is called Exalt WDG, and WDG is water dissolvable granular. So this is a super cool product in that it works in you can use it a couple different ways. So Exalt is an IGR, which is an insect growth regulator. So that means that when applied, this will gradually reduce the population of flies by interrupting the life cycle of labeled pests that's on the product. And then the label, like we were just talking earlier, the label for this product is the target species on this product are huge. And which is super cool because it does everything from flies to darkling beetles to crickets, German cockroaches, like the whole variety. So you can use it dry, which is how I like to use it. It comes in 2 different sizes. And so I usually take the smaller of the 2, and it's almost like a shaker top. So what I do with Exalt is I will top dress my manure pile with it. I shake out however much I feel I need to cover the manure pile with. And I just take the pitchfork and I don't turn it in, like I don't mix it. I just like kind of scatter it in and cover it up a little bit with the manure. And I'm telling you, last summer, it was so impressive. Within a week, you could just tell like there was fewer flies. So that part of it, I really, really like, especially for the horse barns. Another way you can use the product is that you can add water to it and you can spray it. So you can cover surfaces with it. But as far as for horse operations, the way I really like to use it and implement it is on top of the manure pile, because that's where the flies are going to emerge from, and it works fantastic. But as far as folks that have show barns for show animals, I know that they've treated bedding at show stables and things like that too. So, but as far as the horses go, for me personally, I love it for the manure piles. It really does a great job with knocking down that next generation of flies that are going to emerge.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue in my next question. So where do both of these products align in your pest management plan?
So for my IPM plan, so of course you're going to identify which pests are on your operation. So with Aviator, being a fly bait, you're going to have flies at some point. So typically it's for adult flies. So your flies that are already in the barn and causing a problem. So just use it just like you would any bait. So once you see the flies, and they're going to be adult flies at that point, you can start spraying the surfaces and treating the problem that way. With Exalt, you're going to have flies emerging from your manure pile. So before, you don't even have to do any planning at that point. That's going to happen year in and year out. So at the beginning of the season, once it warms up and you're starting to see some flies, just top dress that manure pile and you'd be done with it. Just retreat as needed. But that's, so I guess to answer your question, like where within the IPM program would these apply? So I think honestly, like right while you're planning, like that these flies are going to be emerging. So that's going to be first and foremost. You're going to treat your manure pile right off the bat. And then as you see flies start to come into the barn, then hit them with Aviator. The end. It's fantastic.
The end. So if a listener is getting ready for fly season right now in May, as we're recording this, what steps should they do to take to help mitigate flies this summer using this approach and Starbar products?
So I will talk about my favorite products for my barn and what I really like to use. So to mitigate the flies, I think that, depending on if your horses come in during the day or if your horses come in at night, I think it's all personal preference. I know down south they spend the days inside and they're out at night, so they're not sun bleached and the flies are less at night. So I think that initially when you look at your operation and you look at your horses and the number of horses that you have and what you're doing as far as, they come in the morning to eat and then they go back out. So this is what I do. So we have a product called Easy Traps. They're these sticky traps. There's 2 of them in a box. And I use Easy Traps in the tops of all of my stalls. So like I said before, flies feed low and they rest high. So what the Easy Traps at the top of my stalls do is when the horses come in to eat, the flies leave them and go to a place to rest. And they go right to these traps. They're yellow in color and they're only sticky and they have tons of surface area rather than just a fly ribbon. There's lots of surface area on these. So they work extremely well on the tops of the stalls when the horses come in. We also came out with a new product, I guess it was a year and a half ago. It's called Clarifly Top Dress. And it's a feed-through product. Has absolutely no effect on the animal. It stays in the manure where the flies lay their eggs. And so it's the same thing as it's an IGR just like Exalt. So it's an insect growth regulator. And it stays in the manure. So it stops that next generation of flies hatching. So last summer I implemented Exalt in the manure pile. And I also started feeding my horses this Clarifly Top Dress. And there was like next to no flies. It was fantastic. Another product that I really like because it is targeting specifically for stable flies it's called the Bite Free Stable Fly Trap. It's a clear trap. It's fairly tall. It's intended to go 3 to 4 feet off the ground. And you put it in between your horses and where the fly would go to rest and digest after having its blood meal, which sounds disgusting, but that's what it is. So these traps work great. It's a clear trap, which allows sunlight to shine through it, which is what draws the fly to the trap. We have a R&D facility in Dallas, Texas, and that's what they've discovered with these flies. So bite-free stable fly traps work great. And then we have attractant traps. So you put the attractant into the trap, add water to it, and set it out 3 to 4 feet off the ground. And my place personally, I love the Terminator Pro traps. Fly Terminator Pro traps are fantastic. They're a little bit bigger in size, so you're going to be able to catch more flies in one trap before needing to potentially swap it out or dump it out into the manure pile and put more attractant in and reset it. I can honestly say I have never opened a trap once it has been full of flies because no. But that's an excellent attractant trap on horse operations. That's always my go-to. The Fly Terminator Pro is the larger trap. The Captivator trap is the same thing. It's just a smaller size. So if you just had 1 or 2 horses and you wanted to put on an attractant trap, that's a great option too. It is a reusable trap, and we do sell the attractant refills, so you can refill those traps and use them again. But so those are some of my favorites. So the Clarifly Top Dress has been awesome in combination with the Exalt product. And then Easy Traps are always in my stalls. Bite Free traps are outside in between my paddocks. And Terminator Pros, you're always going to find at least 2 Terminator Pros at my place. And it's like a science experiment. It is so disgusting and it's fantastic. Works
well,
great.
and you really hit all locations and behaviors of flies too. So that makes sense.
Yeah. We got something for everything. So if you have a pest or a one-off, and there's a ton of information on our website, starbarproducts.com. There's tons of FAQs and Q&A, answers, and there's some videos. Some of the guys that I work with have done these really great videos. And so, yeah, we've got something for whatever pest you're working with.
I love it.
Yeah.
So jumping into your personal experience, you have been with Central Life Sciences for 13 years now, which is just incredible. Congratulations. But what has it been like to work for Central Life Sciences for 13 years?
It's been very interesting. It's crazy to look back on these past years and just see how many products we've added over the years, and then but then the products that have been, there are OG products. I mean, they've been with the company it's founded on it, right? So like 45 years with some of these baits, and they're still tried and true, and they work fantastic. But so that just occurred to me that I didn't touch on this. So with baits, now we have 4 different baits, and the reason for it is each one of the baits has a different active ingredient, and it's important to rotate the active ingredients because your flies will gain resistance to those actives. So it is super important to rotate the active ingredients, whatever you're using, whether it's, you could use a competitor product and just, make sure you look at that active ingredient and go to a different one the following year, just so you don't deal with any resistance issues. We talk resistance quite a bit. So, but that's why we have so many. So it's neat. It's fun to have all these tools in our toolbox and be able to go out to these farms and be like, well, have you tried this? And have it work and get these phone calls. We're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So, yeah, it's been a blast doing this. And I think what I love most about it is being able to help the folks that are like us, like we're all ag kids who grew up and now we're living it, we're out here on the farms, and, yeah, so it's been really fun. But watching the whole company with the innovation and how much they include us in, and hey, are you seeing anything out in the field that might be interesting for us to look into? And it's a very innovative company, and I never thought flies would be where I would make my living, but it's been a blast. It really has.
Well, and just like you said, the adaptation, there 2 new products came out in this past year, which is incredible. Like, who would have thought we needed more fly products? But we absolutely do. These fill such a need. So seeing a company like this adapt is really cool.
Right. And the ease of use. Like, I think that's one of the things with Aviator that I was so excited for when it came out. Like, it's ready to go. All you have to do is shake it up and go to work. And for horse farms, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, you don't want to have to sit there and mix. We have another bait, Quick Strike spray bait, where you mix it up and you put it in a backpack sprayer. And I mean, this is intended for like huge dairy operations or feedlots or things like that. So it's nice to have like a ready to use, shake it up, go to work product. So I really like the RTU part of it for Aviator and horse farms, because not saying we don't want to go mix up baits and stuff, but if you're going to go into a farm store and buy something off the shelf, you're going to grab that because it's just fly bait in a can, ready to go.
Right. Yeah. Really a product spectrum for the entire range of ag needs, from the big dairy farms to the hobby horse owner.
Exactly. Yeah. Great variety. Like I said earlier, I really appreciate you having me back on here. It's always fun. I think this is our 3rd year of doing this.
I know.
Yeah. So it's really great to do this with you every spring. I look forward to it. And I really hope that this information helps folks, and always know that you can reach out to us. We're pretty easy to get a hold of. Just go through the website and reach out to customer service, and they'll put you in touch with us, and we can troubleshoot things for you or anything like that. So I am sending you some Exalt to try at your place.
Yes, I'm excited. So what is the Starbar website that people can go to reach customer service?
So it is www.starbarproducts.com.
Simple and
it's fantastic. It really is a great website. There's just a ton of information on it. And it's easy to use. And there is a whole section for IPM, like a whole section, so there's a ton of information on there. So, but if you can't find it on the website, you can always get a hold of us, and one of us is always happy to help.
Thanks for tuning in. Learn more about the Ask Annie podcast by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Ask Annie Podcast. Have a suggestion for a product you'd like me to use in an upcoming episode? Email me at askanniepodcast@gmail.com or leave a comment on any of our social media pages. Find even more Ask Annie episodes anywhere you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. The Ask Annie podcast is a production of the Equine Podcast Network, an entity of Equine Network, LLC.